I'd like to introduce a book written by Wendell Brerry in 1986. The title of the book is The Unsettling of America, Culture and Agriculture. There is a section to aim giving a historical perspective of American agricultural development by indicating the most important figures and approaches employed by them. I'll mention the agricultural policies put by Jefferson and Morrill. Let me start with Thomas Jefferson. Jefferson believed that cultivators of the earth are the most valuable citizens. They are the most vigorous, the most independent, the most virtuous, and they are tied to their country, wedded to its liberty and interests by the most lasting bonds. On July 1862, after the death of Jefferson, the first of the Land Grant College Acts became law. This is called Morrill Act, which granted an amount of public land to be appointed to each state, a quantity equal to 30,000 acres for each senator and representative in Congress. The interest on the money from the sale of these lands was to be applied by each state to endowment, support, and maintenance of at least one college, where the leading object shall be to teach such branches of learning as are related to agriculture and the mechanic arts, in order to promote the liberal and practical education of the industrial classes in the several pursuits and professions in life. In 1887, Congress passed the Hatch Act by President Cleveland, which created the state agricultural experiment stations with the purpose, among others, of promoting a sound and prosperous agriculture and rural life as indispensable to the maintenance of maximum employment and national prosperity and security. The Act declares that it shall be the object and duty of the state agricultural experiment stations to conduct researches, investigations, and experiments bearing directly on and contributing to the establishment and maintenance of a permanent and effective agricultural industry. The law provided funding to agricultural experiment stations in conjunction with the land-grant universities. After over 3 decades, in 1914, the Smith-Lever Act created the Cooperative Extension Service in order to aid in diffusing among the people. These acts set up land-grant college complex. In 1955, the term of agribusiness was introduced by Assistant Secretary of Agriculture John Davis. Secretary of Agriculture Ezra Taft Benson told farmers to get big or to get out in order to rationalize agriculture production. Profitability was regarded as a standard of a sort. However, it was considered being insufficient. The possibility that a family might farm a small acreage, take excellent care of it, make a decent, honorable, and independent living from it, and yet fail to make what the authors of Section 347A would consider a profit. A farm is too small or too unproductive, cannot make full use of the extension service. Jefferson regarded farmers as the most valuable citizens. Morrill looked upon the professions as places of higher consideration. Both Jefferson and Morrill intended to promote the stabilization of farming population and communities and to establish in that way a permanent agriculture enabled by better education to preserve both the land and the people. The Land Grant College legislation obviously calls for a system of local institutions responding to local needs and local problems, but It is argued that a system of institutions which more and more resemble one another. Land-grant college complex in the United States has fulfilled its obligation to assure agriculture a position in research equal to that of industry simply by failing to distinguish between the two is acknowledge the term agribusiness. Jim Hightower and Susan DeMarco put an argument for agricultural education. They questioned who is helped and who is hurt by this research. It is the largest scale growers, the farm machinery and chemicals input companies, and the processors who are the primary beneficiaries. Machinery companies such as John Deere, Massey Ferguson, Alice Chalmer almost continually engage in cooperative research efforts at land-grant colleges. These corporations contribute money and some of their own research personnel to help land-grant scientists develop machinery. In return, they are able to incorporate technological exclusive license to manufacture and sell the products of tax-paid research. Farm workers have not been compensated for the jobs lost to mechanized research. They were not consulted when that work was designed, and their needs were not a part of the research that resulted. They simply were left to fund on their own, no retraining, no unchange that came out of the land-grant colleges. Independent family farmers have also been largely ignored by the land-grant colleges. Mechanization research by land-grant colleges is either irrelevant or only incidentally adaptable to the needs of more than 40% of farmers. The public subsidy for mechanization actually has weakened the competitive position of the family farmer. Section 347A of Smith-Lever Act has a congressional insight that in certain agricultural areas there is a concentration of farm families on farms either too small or too unproductive, or both. For these disadvantaged farms, the following remedies were provided. Firstly, intensive on-the-farm educational assistance to farm family in uprising and resolving its problems. Secondly, assistance and counseling to local groups in uprising resources for capability of improvement in agriculture or introduction of industry designed to supplement farm income. Thirdly, cooperation with other agencies and groups in furnishing all possible information as to existing employment opportunities, particularly to farm families having underemployed workers. And lastly, in cases where the farm family, after analysis of its opportunities and existing resources, finds it advisable and counsel in connection with making such change. What do we understand with disadvantaged farms? It means a farm can be too small or too unproductive. The farmers are unable to make adjustment and investment required to establish profitable operations. Such a farm does not permit profitable employment of available labor, and most revealing, many of these farm families are not able to make full use of current extension programs.